Have you ever wondered how the famous collection of tales, 1001 Nights, actually begins? It's not with Sinbad or Aladdin, but with a foundational story that is dark, powerful, and deeply complex. It's a tale of betrayal, revenge, and ultimately, the incredible power of storytelling to save lives. In the ancient past, two brothers ruled with immense power. The elder, King Shahryar, governed a vast empire, while his younger brother, Shah Zaman, ruled the kingdom of Samarkand. Shahryar was a beloved king, but his world shattered when he discovered his queen's infidelity with a servant. Consumed by a blinding rage, he had them both executed on the spot. His heart, once warm, turned to stone. Hearing of his brother's pain, Shah Zaman set out to offer comfort. But just before leaving his own kingdom, he made a horrifying discovery of his own. His wife had also betrayed him. Devastated, he killed her and her lover, but the grief and shame crushed his spirit. When he finally reached his brother's court, the two kings shared their parallel tragedies. The trauma drove them to a dark conclusion, that all women were inherently faithless. While Shah Zaman eventually recovered from his rage and returned home, King Shahryar's madness took a terrifying turn. He became convinced that the only way to never be betrayed again was to never let a queen live long enough to do so. And so, he made a horrifying vow. Every single evening, he would take a new wife, and the very next morning, he would have her executed. For 3 long, brutal years, this cruel sentence was carried out. The kingdom was plunged into grief as families watched their daughters march to their deaths. Until soon, there were no noble daughters left. This is where our heroine enters. The king's chief vizier had 2 daughters, the elder named Scheherazade. She was a woman of extraordinary beauty, courage, and wisdom. She had read countless books and was known throughout the land as the finest storyteller of her time. Seeing the devastation of her people, Scheherazade made a bold decision. She went to her father and declared, "Father, I must marry the king. I have a plan to save the daughters of our kingdom, or I shall die trying." Her father pleaded with her, reminding her of the fate of all the women before her. But Scheherazade was resolute. "If I die, my death will be a sacrifice," she said. "If I live, I will save us all." That evening, the marriage took place. As dawn approached, the time for her execution drew near. Scheherazade had arranged for her younger sister to be hiding in the room. As planned, the sister asked Scheherazade to tell one last story. The king, intrigued, allowed it. Scheherazade began to weave a tale so intricate, so filled with suspense and wonder, that the king lay awake, utterly captivated. Just as the executioner arrived, she reached the most exciting part of the story, and then she stopped. "But, O auspicious king," she whispered, "the rest of this tale is even more wonderful, but it would take another night to finish. And it pales in comparison to the story I have for tomorrow." Desperate to hear the end, King Shahryar couldn't bring himself to kill her. He granted her a stay of execution for one more night. And so it began. Night after night, Scheherazade would spin her tales, always stopping at the most suspenseful moment, just as the sun rose. The king, ensnared by her narratives, was forced to postpone her death again and again. For 1001 nights, she told stories of genies, sailors, and caliphs. Through her words, the king began to heal. His rage subsided, his heart thawed, and he slowly learned to trust and love again. On the final night, Scheherazade, who had borne the king 3 sons during this time, presented them to him. "O king," she said, "I have no more stories to tell. I ask for pardon for my life." Shahryar, his heart fully restored, embraced his family. "I grant you your pardon," he declared, "not for our children, but for your nobility and courage. I have long since repented of my cruelty." He abolished the terrible decree forever, making Scheherazade his permanent queen. Healed by the power of art, the king had all of Scheherazada's magnificent tales recorded. And those are the very stories we read today. This framing story teaches us a profound lesson. Where violence and anger only destroy, the power of intellect, patience, and a well-told story can heal, redeem, and even save the world. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into classic literature, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history and myth. See you next time.